So our final question for today is, how should our legal strategy and budget evolve as we transition from a small to mid-sized business? What legal milestones should we anticipate?
This is a great question. So when you start out, you're starting out with one place in your business, and some businesses start with a big splash and fast, and they're immediately big, or they're immediately well funded. And for others, there's a ramp up, right? And it could be a slow ramp up, or it could be a moderate ramp up. It depends on how you define those terms. So you know, how should that strategy for your legal work and your budget for your legal work evolve as you transition, as you go from small to mid-sized business? So let's say we're talking SBA size standards, right? So you get to about 20 million, you're no longer, for the most part, if you're revenue based in your services, that SBA size standard is going to shift once you get to about 20 million. The size standards are determined by your industry type. So like if you're a lumber yard, your size standard is going to be determined by how much lumber you're producing, not by revenues. Um, so you want to think about, when you think about that, because there are a lot of people who say at 18 million, I don't feel like a small business. You may not feel like a small business, right? So first of all, define for yourself, what do you feel like that inflection point is? Because we're using these terms, but you're really adopting somebody else's definition that may not apply to you. So what is the inflection point that for you makes the difference between you being a small business in terms of your own identity and concept about the business and being a medium-sized business? What does that difference mean? That right there that answer is going to give you a clue as to how things will shift. You're going to start answering the question for yourself. If you were to define in detail what that medium business looks like, what is different about it compared to the small business, you're going to start answering the question for yourself. And if you want more specific feedback based upon your answer, then I would say take a look at the materials and the videos that we're providing to you and the resources that we're providing to you to take your answer and say, well, what from that answer, which of these videos, which of these resources now resonates? Now that I have clarity around what my business will be on a very granular level, when it is a medium-sized business and how that is different from when I'm a small business, right? If you start talking about having a large number of employees or operating in another country, you see, you're starting to answer the question for yourself. If you start talking about a change in revenues, you're starting to answer the question for yourself. All right. Now, I promised that we would also be talking about some other topics here today at the workshop. We said that we would be talking about employment law management, IP protection strategy, and measuring the return on investment of your legal spend. And we didn't quite get a chance to talk about those items today. So what I'm going to endeavor to do is we'll either talk about it at our next workshop, or I'll record some independent responses to the questions that were submitted around that, and we'll make sure that we get those uploaded and linked in connection with this workshop. Thank you so much for joining. Anna, any closing remarks before we head out?
Thank you so much for offering all this information. I think it's very valuable for any business owner and it's definitely a game changer. So thank you.
All right. Till next time. Thanks, everybody.